Hi, and welcome back to India Roundup, brought to you by Digitimes Asia. We're here to keep you updated on the latest tech and manufacturing developments shaping India's electronics industry. Here's what you might have missed this past week. On the Independence Day on August 15, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed Indian nationals, placing strong emphasis on self-reliance, framing it as a matter of dignity and necessity for long-term prosperity. Against the backdrop of the Trump administration's decision to implement a steep 50% tariff on Indian exports, Modi urged citizens and industries to intensify the push for Viksit Bharat, or a developed India, through domestic capability building. He began by underscoring that true independence cannot exist without self-reliance. While India had achieved food security through the toil of its farmers after independence, reliance on imports and technology, energy, and critical resources still compromised the nation's freedom. A central part of his speech was devoted to semiconductors, the very foundation of the 21st century. He stressed that his government has now shifted into mission mode, with 6 semiconductor units currently under development and 4 more approved. Modi announced that by the end of this year, the first made in India semiconductor chip will be available on the market. Turning to energy, Modi acknowledged India's historic dependence on imports of petroleum, diesel, and gas, costing the nation lakhs of crores annually. He detailed progress in diversifying and localizing energy production. Nuclear energy expansion was also highlighted, with 10 new reactors under construction and a long-term target to increase capacity tenfold by 2047, India's centenary of independence. Notably, Modi announced reforms allowing private sector participation in nuclear energy, signaling a break from the traditionally state-controlled model. The Prime Minister also unveiled the National Deepwater Exploration Mission, aimed at tapping offshore oil and gas reserves, positioning it as part of India's march toward energy independence. He stressed that India had already achieved its 2030 clean energy target of sourcing 50% of its power from renewables by 2025, 5 years ahead of schedule. Critical minerals receive special attention. Modi said that while these resources had been overlooked in the past, they now sit at the core of modern technologies spanning energy, defense, and industry. India's National Critical Mission is currently conducting exploration in more than 1,200 locations to secure self-reliance in essential minerals. The move, he noted, was vital to insulate the country from supply shocks and to ensure long-term competitiveness in sectors like clean energy, electronics, and defense manufacturing. On the subject of aeronautics, Modi posed a pointed challenge. Should the jet engine for our made-in-India fighter jets be ours or not? He tied this to a broader call for investment in research and development, stressing that India must not merely be the pharmacy of the world, but must also expand into patents, innovation, and indigenous technologies across aerospace and bioengineering. The speech also linked self-reliance to the emerging EV and electronics industries. Modi warned that dependence on imports of EV batteries, solar panels, and electronic components would replicate past mistakes. Instead, he urged youth, engineers, and entrepreneurs to seize the opportunity to manufacture domestically. Manufacturing more broadly was presented as the backbone of India's future. Modi highlighted the National Manufacturing Mission, noting that India's MSMEs already supply components used in major global products. He pressed for improved quality standards and challenged industry to deliver lower price but higher value. Perhaps the most politically charged section came when Modi appealed directly to citizens to embrace vocal for local and Swadeshi consumption. He urged Indians to consciously buy domestically made goods. Modi suggested traders should adopt shop signs reading Swadeshi goods sold here to foster national pride in local products. With India facing tariffs abroad, his call amounted to redirecting demand inward to strengthen the domestic market. This generation must take bold new steps for a prosperous Bharat, he said, framing the purchase of Indian goods not as compulsion but as a patriotic act of empowerment. In conclusion, Modi framed self-reliance not only as an economic necessity, but also as a strategic shield against external pressures like tariffs, supply chain shocks, and geopolitical uncertainty. Together, let us make vocal for local the mantra of every citizen's life, he said, positioning Swadeshi self-reliance as the next stage in India's freedom struggle, this time against dependency rather than colonial rule. That's a wrap for today's Roundup. If you found today's episode useful, don't forget to subscribe and share it. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.